2019 election, you would have thought that the Rafale controversy, politically speaking, would be dead and buried. Well, in this weekend gone by, things have actually been reborn because France, through one of its judicial institutions, has launched a probe into the India-France Rafale deal of 2016. What does this mean politically and otherwise for India? Take a look at this report.
आप किसकी रक्षा कर रहे हैं? अगर आप राफेल मामले में इन्वॉल्व नहीं हैं, तो करा दो इन्वेस्टिगेशन, जेपीसी बैठा दो।
Are you feeling that sense of deja vu as well? Well, you're not alone, because Rahul Gandhi's disastrous war cry in 2019 has just found reason to climb out from its political grave. With a French judicial body launching a probe into the 2016 sale of Rafale fighter jets to India, Rahul Gandhi's grounded mojo on the issue has just found reason to attempt another flight. Strangely, however, Rahul Gandhi, who made Rafale his high-voltage calling card in 2019, hasn't said a word about it yet in person. Nothing beyond a few tweets. Instead, Rahul's party men have been deployed to lead the charge against the Modi Sarkar.
देश को रुचि है कि 570 करोड़ की चीज 1670 में क्यों खरीदी गई? 126 विमान आने थे, सिर्फ 36 क्यों खरीदे गए?
The sweetheart deal and role of Modi government has also been now exposed. The French news website Mediapart has also released details of the agreement entered into between Dassault Aviation and Reliance Infra of Mr. Anil Ambani.
राफेल को लेकर जिस प्रकार कांग्रेस पार्टी ने झूठ बोला है, जिस प्रकार से एक भ्रम फैलाने की कोशिश की है, वो हम सब ने देखा है.
Beyond sound bites, social media hashtags, and a call for a joint parliamentary committee probe, the Congress's Rafale roar is particularly muted this time. Pandemic restrictions aside, is the Congress party hesitant to revisit an issue that backfired so badly just 2 years ago? Are Rahul's streets of rage over Rafale now restricted to Twitter timelines? Is the Congress calibrating its political energies on the Rafale issue, wary now of wasting resources on an issue that gave it zero returns 2 years ago? Sniffing the chance to bog the Congress down on an issue of low electoral resonance, then the BJP has taunted the Congress, daring it to fight the 2024 national election again on the Rafale issue. But the political crossfire aside, it is a fact that France has launched a probe into the Rafale deal. While the Indian government hasn't reacted to the probe and has reminded political critics of the various top-level clean chits the deal has received here in India, including from the Supreme Court, what happens next in France could dictate the potency of the Rafale issue going forward. Bureau Report, India Today. I'm going to decode this entire new probe that's been launched in France by a judicial body there. Before that, I want to introduce you to the guests who are going to be joining me in just a moment. We have Charan Singh Sapra of the Congress Party, Tuhin Sinha of the BJP, and India Today's very own Sandeep Unnithan, who's been with me right through all of our coverage of the Rafale controversy during the 2018-2019 election season. In many ways, a deja vu, but what is different this time? Before I go to my guests, let me tell my viewers what's being probed right now. You're wondering, wasn't this already investigated at multiple levels? What is being probed right now by France? Number one, alleged corruption in the 2016 Indo-French deal is what is being probed. Alleged favoritism in appointing the deal partners. Number three, alleged influence peddling by ex-president of France, François Hollande. Number four, alleged undue tax waivers to Dassault Aviation is also being alleged. And number five, alleged money laundering by the French government and the companies involved in this deal. Now, what is different between 2019 and 2021, you're probably wondering, because the very same petition was put before the French prosecutor's office in 2019, at which time it was rejected. But in 2021, it has been accepted and a judge has been appointed to lead the investigation. So what's different? In 2019, the French financial prosecutor refused to probe this. In 2021, the same financial prosecutor is launching this probe. In 2019, there was no probe, so no judge was appointed for the probe. 2021, a judge has been appointed to lead the probe into corruption and favoritism. In 2019, this NGO called Sherpa, its complaint alleged corruption. In 2021, this same NGO, Sherpa's complaint, which has triggered this investigation, has alleged corruption, money laundering, influence peddling, favoritism, and undue tax waiver. Now, let me decode for you what this agency is that has launched this investigation. It's not the French government. The investigation is by a probe agency called the PNF, which is a French word for the French Public Prosecutor's Financial Crimes Division. So it's a special judicial body that investigates serious financial crimes. It was created in 2013. The PNF is a judicial institution with 17 magistrates. They don't answer to the government. It is entirely the French judicial system. It can be petitioned directly by the public or by NGOs or by individuals or lawyers on cases of corruption. The PNF alone has the discretion to decide which probes will be launched and which cases it will turn down. The same way it did for the Rafale case in 2019. Now it has actually accepted it. It can use state machinery like the police and other institutions to conduct these investigations. So the connective tissue and the instruments of investigation are from the state, but the body itself is under the judiciary. Now, the implications for India could be several, but here's just a broad view of what the implications are. Some of these you've guessed already. This was Rahul Gandhi's big 2019 issue. Remember, in the election at that time, and perhaps it gets fresh ammunition. He's been tweeting "Chor ki dadi mein tinka," etc., and mocking at the BJP and Prime Minister Modi. So politically, it has provided him with ammunition. The Congress is seeing this French probe that has been launched now as a kind of told you so moment, a vindication on the Rafale issue. That's what the Congress is seeing. It creates ground for the Congress to demand an Indian Joint Parliamentary Committee probe, which in any way they have actually already done, after first demanding such a probe almost 3 years ago. The Modi government is unlikely to provide any fodder to the Rafale fight because, according to the Modi government, they've seen this through the Supreme Court, through the CAG, and there's no need for a joint parliamentary committee probe on a national security deal. Number 5, and this is for people who are wondering whether it affects the deliveries of Rafales to the Indian Air Force, which is really the most important issue. The deliveries will not be affected at all. 23 aircraft have already been delivered. The remaining aircraft, for a total of 36, will be delivered by the end of this month. Now let me go straight to our guest. We also have some graphics to give our viewers a throwback on the timeline of this entire controversy. Welcome, gentlemen, to all of you. Sandeep, I'd like to start with you on the specific issue at hand. A petition of a similar kind, if not an identical kind, was put forward before the French PNF, the agency, the judicial agency that has launched this probe, in 2019, at which time it was turned down. Can you put into context for us your view on why it has been accepted this time? What has changed since then? Or is there a political context to what is happening in France?
Well, Shiv, if you look at how this case has been treated in India, the Supreme Court about 2 years back looked at three big issues concerning the Rafale investigation, where they looked at the decision-making process, the pricing, and the choice of the offset partners. And on all these three counts, it gave the government a clean chit, and it threw the petition out of the court. Now, we are not very clear what the motivations of the parties in France are to, ask for a probe into this, because from all accounts, it appears to be the choice of the offset partner that's, come under the limelight. Because, and this is very clearly the choice of the offset partner has nothing to do between India and France. I mean, it was a government-to-government deal, from what we understand. And the offset partner was chosen by Dassault. And if you look at it, Shiv, I mean, the bigger picture here is that if you look at the big questions about this deal, was Was the Rafale the first choice of the Indian Air Force? Yes. Was this a deal between the Indian government and a private company or a private, arms company? No, it was a deal between the government of India and the government of France. So
Yes.
on these very basic, on these very basic factors, Shiv, it passes the test. And if you look at the way corruption has, unfolded in various other deals in the past, this is not one of those deals. I mean, this is not, it possibly doesn't have it's not a perfect deal in the sense of the decision making, but it can't be faulted on the issues that are now being raised. And, one gets a sense, like you mentioned, a sense of deja vu. It's almost like, old wine in new bottle that's being, bottled every few years. You have it repackaged and presented to you. The same set of facts is presented in a new context. And that's what my take is on this latest round of investigation.
Okay, very interesting. Old wine in a new bottle, and expectedly it has led to a political sort of crossfire. Nowhere near the kind of ferocity we saw in 2019 because there were elections happening at that time. Charan Singh Sapra, the Congress has once again demanded a JPC, which Rahul Gandhi had first done back in August 2018, if I'm not mistaken. What makes you think that this is going to revive this issue in full? It is an important fact that the French judicial body has launched this probe. What is the Congress hoping to see happen now?
See, Shiv, you only explained in the beginning about the PNF and the entire judicial system which PNF is carrying along with it. And I feel if investigation is being conducted on the basis that there was some corruption or favoritism, or maybe somebody wanted to favor this deal in that way, and prima facie, if they are having some allegations and which are to be probed, I feel they cannot be ignored by anybody. Though the Supreme Court in India might have given a clean chit, but can the global media or can the global institution ignore this, what is happening in France? Nobody can, even you cannot ignore the probe which is happening in France. That's why you are having a discussion today. So that's what Congress party is demanding, that we need a JPC probe, and there's nothing wrong in it.
Okay.
BJP has more members in JPC. And if there is nothing wrong, why the BJP should be scared of JPC? They should go in for JPC. If some probe is happening in France, then why not in India?
Okay.
The grounds are same. Similar grounds are being expressed by the Congress party.
Tuhin, would the BJP concede that the demand for a JPC by the Congress is very different between 2018 and 2021? The reason is, at that time, there was a lot of innuendo, a lot of allegations, and there was never any money trail, no smoking gun. It was a lot of, broad strokes being made at that time. And then there was that big political fallout in 2019 for which the Congress paid a very heavy price. But that is the politics of it. Now in 2021, Tuhin, there is a judicial probe. It's not been launched by the government in France, but an independent judicial institution. Do you think, Tuhin, that the Congress's demand for a JPC has more weight now on the back of this probe that's been launched?
Shiv, I have been on so many debates of this nature with you on 2018 and 19 that it actually gives me a feeling of deja vu. But yes, the difference today is that it is increasingly clear that if at all there was a scam in Rafale, it was between the period 2004 to 2013, and this is corroborated by the French website Mediapart, which says that Sushen Gupta of the August Westland fame and a person reportedly close to the Gandhi family received commission to the tune of 14.6 million euros between 2004 to 2013 to influence the Rafale deal. So if at all, and you have followed the case so closely, repeatedly, despite putting all modalities in place of the Congress government, repeatedly put off the purchase of Rafale deal, they need to answer that. As for the present context, see, a magistrate has been appointed by PNC in France. That does not say anything. That merely means that PNC is not shutting the case for now. But I think the way Congress has jumped at it shows the party's fundamental disregard for Indian institutions, the Supreme Court and the office of the CAG. The Supreme Court has repeatedly run down the Congress plea to, for a court-monitored inquiry. It has in fact used words like there is no scope for a fishing expedition.
Okay.
It has used words like there is a difference between apples and oranges, which they don't understand.
Charan,
And clearly, when they say apples and oranges,
Charan,
it means
disregard
the
for
price
Indian
difference.
institutions like the CAG and the Supreme Court on two occasions. One, when it threw out the petition, and two, when it threw out a review petition by people like Prashant Bhushan and Yashwant Sinha, etc. Is this, the BJP says this is a sign of desperation by the Congress in latching on to this probe that's been launched in France, which, mind you, we still don't fully understand the context of. Charan.
No, Shiv, it's not desperation, and we are not disrespecting the Indian institutions also. But the fact is that Mr. Holland had said that time that they had no choice for interlocutor. They had to choose the one which was given by Narendra Modi. Number two, the company which was formed, Dassault Reliance Aerospace Limited, it had 169 million euros were to be invested. And Reliance was 51% partner, and the Dassault was 49% partner. Dassault invested 149 million euro, or probably 159 million euro, and Reliance invested only 10 million euro. Now the company which is having 51% share is investing only 10 million euro, whereas the other company with a smaller share is investing 159 million euro. What is the game behind it? And what is happening, and what was the duty of the Reliance in that agreement? It is clearly written that they were to arrange some marketing things and also some services from Indian government. But what are these services from the Indian government? There's a big question mark. That's what PNF will be probing now. And if Congress is asking about a similar probe, there's no harm in it.
Sandeep, I want to bring you in on this because, almost all of these aspects received a certain amount of scrutiny in 2018 and 2019 at various levels. There were all sorts of documents flying out in public. There was a CAG which got involved, which says it doesn't look like there was any, anything untoward about this deal or the manner in which it actually took place. Does it all boil down to the compelling reasons why the French need to investigate this deal at this time? Is that what we are missing here? The reason why they declined to investigate it in 2019 and have agreed to do so now?
Sure, we don't know the reason why that, specifically why this, case was in the cold storage for 2 years, and now suddenly it's come back into the, limelight. Because the facts, the facts that we're debating are all the same facts, identical to what we debated and, settled 2 years back.
In fact, Sandeep, you wrote an article which went viral about the offsets partners and the decision-making process on that aspect as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Which answers Charan's question.
The fact is that Reliance was not the only offset partner. It was one of almost 200 offset partners that Dassault was mandated to choose for from India. And this was, this is one of the largest offset contracts in the history of Indian defense deals. And it's impossible for one company to have even absorbed all of these offsets. So it was spread out across, the entire Indian aerospace industry. And this is going to be there for 10, 20 years, Shiv. And, so Anil Ambani being an offset partner, being the only beneficiary of this is absolutely untrue. In fact, as we established 2 years back, it was the DRDO, the state-owned DRDO, which is one of the largest beneficiaries of the offsets in this deal.
Absolutely. Charan, straight question to you. In 2019, this was the big calling card, the big buzzword for the Congress. On the back of the whole Rafale insinuations and allegations, it was the Chaukidar Chor Hai slogan that the Congress had mounted. After what happened in the elections, one gets the feeling that with this probe being launched in France, the Congress is a little iffy. It's a little hesitant to throw all its energy on this issue. Is that the case? We've seen a couple of tweets from Rahul Gandhi, a couple of sound bites from the Congress, but none of the energy with which the Congress had latched on to this in 2019. Is it because of the very low political returns? The BJP is even taunting you now, saying, why don't you fight on this issue in 2024?
No, Shiv, let 2024 come. There will be many more issues. As far as Rafale is concerned, there is definitely something wrong, something fishy in it. And let me also remind you that their own CEO had come to Bangalore, Mr. Eric Trappier, And on 25th March 2015, he said that we are having a work share agreement with HAL. And on the next day, within 24 hours, they had an agreement with Dassault. So what happened in
But
those
we've
24
cleared that
hours?
up.
There are
But
so
we've
many
cleared
questions.
that up. You do,
No.
Charan,
So
you know,
that
like
will
Sandeep
get-
was saying,
that will get
you know,
cleared when the JPC
we're
probe will be
revisiting
ordered.
issues which have been addressed and cleared up in 2019. Sandeep has been on this show.
We need to revisit the issues because they were not addressed properly.
You know,
That's why we
okay.
are demanding a JPC
issue-
so that
the-
they are addressed properly.
The issue between Dassault and HAL is a very well-known issue which has been discussed here. Another question that the Congress has been raising is, why did the number go from 126 to 36? Charan, let me play out for you. Let me play out for you personally what Mr. Antony had said in 2013. Let's play out for you. A.K. Antony, then the defense minister, on public record saying that we don't have the money to buy 126 jets. Let's play that out.
I told you the delay is mainly negotiation is going on because of the shortage of money. This financial year, don't expect any finalization of the agreement. Next year, by that time, I think process will continue. Next financial year, I hope that the process will be able to complete.
Sandeep, you know, the issue of Anil Ambani, the issue of offsets, the issue of why 126. Yeah, Charan, finish your point, then I'll go to Sandeep.
Sure, Mr. A.K. Antony clearly said, this financial year, we cannot do this. Probably in the coming years, in the coming financial years, we may be able to accomplish this. So he has been very clear in that financial year, the government might not be in that situation. So what is the problem in that?
The issue in that is, and Sandeep can correct me if I'm wrong, that once the Rafale had been chosen, the negotiations just meandered on and on as a result of the cost issue. Isn't that right, Sandeep? You and I
Yes,
covered
but they were not going to supply all the 126 aircrafts at one go. They were not going to supply all the 126 aircrafts.
It's incredible that we are discussing the same things again. Sandeep, you can come in on this, then I'll go to Tuhin.
Yeah, Shiv, what we're talking of essentially is two separate deals. And, you know, the attempt has been to conflate the two of them together. The first one was a 126 aircraft deal. And the second one is an off-the-shelf, a kind of an emergency purchase of 36 Rafales. And the 36 Rafale deal was concluded even as the 126 jet aircraft was still, live. And it was scrapped only after this 36 aircraft deal had, progress further. So the understanding of the government in 2015 was the fact that this 126 aircraft deal was going nowhere. And that was the reason they decided to scrap the whole process and go in for this emergency purchase of 36 aircraft.
Tuhin?
Let's face it, Shiv, if the Congress had been in power, I once again want to thank all Indians for voting Congress out of power in 2014. If the Congress had been in power, this deal would not have happened for another 10 years. And that is why it was necessary for us to scrap the deal in 2015 and go for a fresh deal. This is a record government-to-government deal executed in record time, which the Congress cannot come to terms with because they have been used to a culture of brokers and dalals executing the defense deal for them. Now, I have heard so many of their press conferences, including that of Rahul Gandhi, where he says, how can you entrust Ambani's company with a manufacturer? They sometimes forget that these are 36 ready-to-fly, they're ready-made helicopters. They're not being manufactured here. And so far as offset partner is concerned, Anil Ambani's company gets 2 to 3% of the offset amount. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. DRDO gets 30% if I'm wrong. So they don't even do sufficient research on the other offset partners.
Yeah, Charan, go ahead. Last word.
See, BJP is right in saying that this was a record sort of purchase for them because they, manipulated in many ways. They tried to bypass the defense procurement procedure also. A joint secretary of defense ministry had come out and he had also given a statement. If you remember, they also overlooked the condition that there should be no intermediaries and no commission agents in this. Earlier, there was a anti-corruption clause in this. Later on, the anti-corruption law was removed by the Modi government. Why they removed the anti-corruption law is a big question mark. Somebody has to probe this.
As Sandeep said, it was a government-to-government deal. At the end of the day, whether it is the nuts and bolts or the public view, it's gone to the Supreme Court, it's gone to the CAG. So either the Congress party and the opposition are saying that the Supreme Court and the CAG are compromised, or not in so many words, or whatever it is. The fact is, it has gone to the highest court in the land and come out with a clean chit. Now, whether you want to disregard that and say, despite this, the French are probing it, is entirely a political decision. But at the end of the day, this probe is going to happen in France, and we'll have to see what happens there. Will it find some kind of money trail? Will it find wrongdoing? Will it find payoffs under the UPA? Will it find, corruption under the current government? We'll have to see how this goes, because ultimately, it's out of the Indian government's hands. It's being probed in France. Sandeep, Tuhin and Charan, pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you for being with me. Real sense of deja vu, really, on this entire story. Didn't think I'd be debating it again, but here we are, and we will continue to do it here on India Today. Some breaking news coming in. Okay, the Information Technology Ministry of the Indian government has filed an affidavit in the Delhi High Court in the Twitter losing immunity case. The IT Ministry has told the Delhi High Court that Twitter did not comply with norms of IT rules 2021, and therefore its legal safeguard is no longer applicable, and now Twitter is completely vulnerable to prosecution here in India. All legal safeguards have evaporated for Twitter, says the Indian government, in light of the fact that it has refused to comply so far with India's IT rules 2021. Big escalation in the Twitter versus government crossfire and face-off, which has been intensifying for the last few days. Here's the government basically telling court Twitter has lost its legal cover and legal shield because it has refused to follow the laws of the land, specifically the IT rules 2021. Keep watching India Today. Coming up next, the Congress party faces